I sucked at sales. I wasn't very good at sales some years ago. So I had to be able to find my hacks.
They start this journey of entrepreneurship and they want to create a business that they can create the lifestyle they want, but they start realizing it's taken their entire life to do it.
Your business will eat all of your time unless you put really strict boundaries around it. And you can end the end of your day and realize that like you've really done nothing.
Sometimes it doesn't mean doing a lot more. Actually, it means doing less, but you're getting a better result. And as a result, your value is higher.
If you're cash rich and time poor, then you're losing a lot of money. And when you have the cash, you have the options.
And I always say it's never too late to start living the life you're meant to live, but you gotta be working on the right things. All right, welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. And I'm joined today with a great guest. I am really excited to have you in on the podcast today, Mandi Ellefson. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thanks so much for having me, George.
Listen, we have some great topics to talk about, and you referred to me through a mutual friend, and when I started digging in, I got some really good value of what you're doing. So let me give our listeners a little background if they don't know you. So if you haven't met Mandi or seen her online, she's the founder of Hands Off CEO, where she guides service firms to break free from that daily delivery, win 6-7-figure deals, and even boost their profits by as much as 600%. By leveraging what she calls their invisible advantage, which we're going to talk about. But I really was drawn to her because after battling emotional and physical burnout, she rebuilt her business to create more freedom and grew multi-million-dollar net worth before the age of 40. So you definitely have been there and done that. And now you're teaching business owners on how to do the same and create that for themselves. So you've got some great stuff to talk to us about. And I want you to start, if you wouldn't mind, by telling us a little bit about that burnout that you had. I think a lot of people are feeling that. So could you give us a little bit of that backstory?
Yeah. So when I was pregnant with my second daughter, I was about almost 9 months pregnant. I was getting up there. And I had a 4-year-old daughter, and I had moved across the country with my husband for his graduate medical program. I was there by myself, maxed out. For my business, it was totally dependent on me. I was trying to close up shop. I had to close out shop basically because my team fell apart just as I was trying to take some maternity leave, and eventually just had to shut down the business. And at the same time, while this is happening, I had this debilitating physical pain from overuse in my arms. I was really stressed out. And we're talking weeks before I was giving birth to my second daughter. And this business that I had been a manager in a past company before. I had gotten that to run without me for weeks at a time. And I was like, why can't I make this happen in my own company? And after the dust had settled and I took my maternity leave by shutting everything down, I went back and I looked at what is actually going on here. And to try to understand what the root cause of this was and what was different from the last company that I managed versus my own company. I was just so committed to figuring this out. So I started going and having interviews with other CEOs. And as I was interviewing them to understand what the problem was, I started helping them with the problem because I was starting to see a trend. I was starting to see the pattern of what was going on. And before I knew it, I ended up actually starting a consulting company because people were asking me to help them with this. And I was getting real outcomes for helping people to be able to remove themselves from the day-to-day. And that was 14 years ago. I now have this company that we've been to become quite successful as we've learned and figured out what this real approach was. Ultimately, I learned that there wasn't enough value. I wasn't able to remove myself because I couldn't pay people enough to be able to do the level of work that I could do. And I couldn't pay people to do that because I wasn't able to charge enough and I wasn't able to charge enough because there wasn't enough value. So I spent a number of years trying to figure this solution out. And that's now what we help our clients solve so that they could be able to double their net profits.
Wow, that's great. And I got to ask you, because you did a lot of interviews with CEOs and yourself personally, with the clients that you work with, do you find that a lot of times it's a combination of that value, but also the mindset? Or is it themselves holding themselves back as well as the value of the goods and services and things they have? Or when you say value, not enough value to be able to create that profitability, what is it that you found for yourself and for most people you work with?
So when I talk about value, let me first there's a few questions in there, so I'm going to unpack that. The first piece when we're talking about value, I'm talking about perceived value from the client, from the
Right.
prospect. Not how you value it, not your own personal value. I'm worth this. No, not that. It's about the objective value that a prospect is going to say, this is going to be worth this value to my company because it's going to solve this problem for me. And now you asked, is it mindset? Is it more? It's probably about 90% mindset. But there's a mindset in the system. And the reason why I say it's 90% mindset is because I started off doing this work. I started doing this work about 13 years ago, 14 years ago now, we're pretty close. But I started this without the system and the process. I've built the system and process from observing it hundreds of times for how it works. But I started first with learning how to be able to shift the mindset of people. So people were able to start removing themselves from the day-to-day. They were able to start letting go. And that was where we started it. But what I was recognizing was the biggest issue from them being able to let go was cash flow in the company. So I said, how do we solve this? And so we started looking at the offers and saying, okay, how do we be able to make this so valuable that it basically sells itself? And the reason why I said that is because I sucked at sales. I wasn't very good at sales some years ago. So I had to be able to find my hacks. I was a graphic designer, actually. And so what did I do is I used design to help create these really cool offers that helped clients get it right away. Okay, I get this. And defining real clear outcomes and then selling outcomes rather than just deliverables, because that's what clients actually wanted.
Yeah.
So then I started helping people be able to look at what is the best use case for our service? How can we deliver bigger problems, bigger outcomes so that we can actually sell this in an easier way? And what happened is that as our clients were able to sell it more easily, I also recognized that they could charge twice as much, 3 times as much, 10 times as much, many times because we just packaged it in a different way and gave them actually what they wanted to buy, which is results instead of just some service that may or may not work.
Yeah, it's so great how you've explained that, because I do think a lot of people, they start this journey of entrepreneurship and they want to create a business that they can create the lifestyle they want, but they start realizing it's taken their entire life to do it. And it is
Yeah.
90% mindset of you don't want to let things go. You can do a better job than anybody else could possibly do. But you made a really great point, and that is that it does, even though that's 90% of really being able to create those systems and things, it does boil back to being able to create a profitable model to be able to step back or even scale. And most people do forget about that. And honestly, I think as you create a profitable model and you sell and grow your business, your confidence, your results speak for themselves and actually help with the mindset. So it is a very give and take type of game, don't you think?
Yeah, it's definitely circular where it builds the confidence but a company is going to be a lot more successful if they start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
If they start with, this is the kind of profit I want to be making, and saying, how do we work back into that instead of whatever's left over is whatever's left over. And when you operate a business based upon that, it's just going to eat everything. It will eat everything. And the same thing goes with your time. Your business will eat all of your time unless you put really strict boundaries around it. And you can end the end of your day and realize that like you've really done nothing. Like you we're responding to fires and all these reactive things all day long. And that's not what a CEO does to really grow a company. So you have to be very intentional. And where the intention starts is like, what do we actually want to make? If you want to be able to build an 8-figure company and you want to be able to generate a certain amount of profit, and it working back into it, say, what do we have to do? What kind of value? And you're going to look at this and say, if we're selling services for $20,000, how many sales do we have to make to be able to do that, right? Now, if we're selling services for $200,000 a year, then how many sales do we have to do? A lot less. You need to do a lot less. So it's really optimizing for what's the simplest path to be able to generate the profits that we want. And the simplest path to do that is by looking at how do we solve real problems that drive bigger outcomes for clients so that they'll be willing to pay a lot more. And when we've done this with clients, what we've seen consistently is they're able to command double or triple or more for oftentimes a similar workload.
Yeah. It is interesting because people throw around terms, they think they're talking about the same thing. They say value, and they're just thinking stacking more and more content into the things they're doing, or more service into servicing they're doing. And they're thinking that's value. When you said it, value, first of all, creating profit always leads through sales, and people like to avoid sales, but value comes from the result. It's, in other words, create a result that is higher. Sometimes it doesn't mean doing a lot more. Actually, it means doing less, but you're getting a better result. And as a result, your value is higher. So when you said begin with the end in mind for what you want to create, it's the same thing with your value proposition, right? You want to begin with the result in mind and work it backwards.
And I could give you some examples of this too.
Yeah.
If you think about it, think about your accountant, right? Like the accountant continue to stack on more and more services, do more bookkeeping, be able to go from cash base to accrual base. We could add on all these little things. They're going to be able to do more bean counting for you. Or your accountant can come to you and say, hey, you know what? I found a way to be able to help you add $100,000 of profit to your company.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I know,
and
right?
What's $100,000 worth? It's worth anything less than
100,000. So, but here's the thing: is like, what if that was $100,000 a profit every year, and what's that worth, right? It's a different way of thinking about it, and I use that example because, like, actually, accountants are like the least innovative service sector perhaps on the planet.
Yeah.
And it's actually the easiest industry to disrupt, by the way, but like almost no one does it. So we have a few clients that are from that space and they just kill it, but very few are in that industry are willing to actually be innovative like that. And that's one of the things that we're seeing here, where the services, I want to present this deliverable. I'm going to give this website. I'm going to do this plan, but it's not necessarily going to leave the business in a better off place. I'll give you another example if that's helpful. We worked with this SEO company one time, and they're like, you know what, we're going to put this on your website and we're going to be able to help you increase your traffics. And so we go through the keywords that we want to rank for, and we put these keywords down, and they went to work on it, right? And then a few months later, they look at all this traffic we're driving to your company, to your website. Look at all this traffic. And they were for all these totally stupid keywords that, like, I don't want to rank for those keywords. And then what they did to be able to get to that is they put all these spammy backlinks that actually put our website at risk. So they're sitting there patting themselves on the back. They're using our case study to be able to go and sell more deals. Look at how much traffic we increased to this company. And meanwhile, they actually hurt our business. So more stuff can actually hurt the companies you're working with.
Yeah, and one of the other challenges I find a lot of business owners, especially right now, because with AI and the crowded market, there's always a new idea. You can create an app, you get this, that. One of the challenges that a lot of business owners face is they convince themselves of a result they need, which does not directly align with the result their company's trying to accomplish. Like, oh my gosh, we could create this cool new thing, and that's a result we're getting by creating it. But if it doesn't create your freedom or the bottom line, the result isn't aligned. Just like you said, like traffic that's bad is still not going to get your result. And quite honestly, traffic, if it's not converted, doesn't get your result either. So it comes back to the same thing, right?
That's actually even better. A better example there too, because do you want to be the person who's traffic and then the algorithm, something changes and now you're screwed, right? Or do you want to be the person who is actually the growth strategist that's helping this company to be able to create X amount of growth? And SEO might be one of the strategies, but one takes more expertise. It's choosing to become that expert. And it's being able to sit with the gap of learning what you need to, like filling in that gap at times to be able to be that excellent for some people. Some other people, though, they have really great results already. And it's just a matter of putting those front and center and being able to positioning in a different way. And those are usually the clients we work with more often, actually, because they have so much to leverage. It's just like in a matter of just a few weeks, like they already start seeing different results because they're showing up so differently to their prospects and clients.
Yeah, and it's one of those differentiating factors in the topic of sales, because you mentioned it earlier. Most people don't like sales, and the reason is because they're so busy trying to position their product or the result they think the client wants with their stuff. And what they're not doing is just filling the need for the result that the client wants, in which case doesn't take a lot of selling. All that takes is just consultative information.
Right. I don't even think most people are actually trying to go and look at an outcome.
Or not at all.
Most of them, what they're doing is they're like saying, how can I do this special branding magic that's going to make what we're doing sound better? Like, how can I make it sound like our website's better? How do we make this service that we're doing sound better? How can we position this service? Like when you're talking about positioning a service, What you're essentially doing is we're going to sound like everybody else. You may think that you look a little different, but you don't. You sound just like everybody else. It's like when you're looking at, and your prospects are looking at like 10 tabs.
Yeah.
You're one of 10 tabs. Who are they going to choose? They're going to choose the person that they know if everything else is equal. And it usually is to them.
It's interesting you say that because, yeah, our big focus a lot of times with one of my companies is authority. And it always boils back down to that. So many people are trying to be that unique, different thing. But in the end, people that get the results and the people that they trust and they have credibility that they know are the ones that are going to make it happen, no matter how pretty or how crazy or unique you make it look. So tell me about this invisible advantage that you feel like business owners have. What is that? And how do you define that? How do you use that with your clients?
So the invisible advantage is the thing that you do best, better than anyone else, or at least you have something that's really special. And the problem is that it's invisible and no one else can see it. And oftentimes you can't see it yourself either. And within this invisible advantage, this is the key piece of positioning that allows you to be able to bring to the market something that's really compelling and that meets the needs of the market and that will fly off the shelf.
And is
And when I
unique
say,
to you? Is that what you're saying? But is
well,
also unique to you or not?
it's more than it being unique. It's about being compelling.
Got it.
It's really about being compelling. And I think a lot of people try to be like, I have to make sure I'm different and I'm totally unique. And prospects don't really care about your unique, how beautiful your website is, whatever it is. Those are important things for credibility and absolutely for authority and credibility, to your point with you're in authority. But what's really going to drive the biggest authority is when you position around your invisible advantage related to real tangible results that you can provide.
Can you give me an example and how that
Yes.
would be different from like your USP or your market dominating position? Maybe it's another way of saying that, but give me an
Well,
example of
it's a
invisible
little
advantage.
deeper than that. It's a little deeper than that. So the USP is we do paid acquisition we do paid ads for lawyers. That's like you defining, okay, it's good that you've figured out a target market and you can speak to them. But here's the thing is like, unless you actually have some proprietary way that you are actually delivering real tangible results, unless you have some kind of advantage there, you've just made it simpler for your marketing as far as
But the
your
same as a
messaging,
lot
but
of
you
other people
haven't,
do.
it's not that much different though. It's not really it's a little bit more compelling because you hopefully set yourself up to be able to create more case studies. But if you're just offering services to them, you're going to have a pretty hit or miss result. So what we look at is, let's say the same thing, you wanted to work with lawyers and you wanted to do paid ads for them. All right. Instead of looking at paid ads, or look at what do lawyers actually want to do. Lawyers are going to want to grow their practice. They want to either grow like the size of cases that they have. So maybe move into a different category of cases, or maybe they want to be able to go from 5 partners up to 20 partners, right? So it's looking at, let's solve the problem that they actually want to get to that outcome and they don't have enough leads to be able to do that.
Okay.
So when you can paint a pathway to be able to help them get into a whole new category, that's when you really step into this category expert where you're really the top 5%. And then what you're doing is you might be doing very similar work actually. But the difference is that you have clear parameters around who you're going to work with, under what conditions. What is the minimum budget that you're going to be working with them? How do they need to show up? What are your success conditions that you need to hold your clients to ensure that you can be able to take them from 5 partners to 20 partners, for example? That's just an example I used off the top of my head. But can you see how that's so different than just the unique selling factor?
For sure. So is it really the idea that your clarity around your specific result you're creating for people, that clarity for you, that you're positioning that specific path and clarity gives you that invisible advantage? Is that where it relates?
Is the invisible advantage is these are the outcomes you're going to be providing. So there's 3 parts to this, the power of ones. So you have one client type. So not just an industry, but a client type within the industry.
Got it.
And you need one painful problem. I like solving $1 million problems. $1 million
So the
problem,
bigger the problem, the better, right? One really
expensive problem.
Okay.
And then once you know those 2 variables, then you can actually look at what kind of outcomes could we create. You look at the success conditions. What do we need to have in place? And then, so this goes so much farther than just marketing and sales. what it's doing is it's actually saying, how do we need to operationalize our company to be able to deliver these outcomes
For that.
and not just deliverables? Yeah.
Got
And
it.
it's so back to the mindset conversation you brought up. This is really where the mindset's very critical, because when you pass this over to your team, what they're going to be looking at is, okay, I'm just going to check off the boxes here. These are our deliverables. So what happens then? They're thinking in this little siloed box. So somebody has to be the glue that holds it all together to make sure that results happen. So you know who that someone is? It's the owner. And that's where they're getting pulled into delivery. So until you actually are defining what the end looks like, and it's so compelling that you build a system around this that your clients trust, they will trust the system and they'll trust your people being trained in the system rather than just you and your 20 years of experience in the industry, for example.
Yeah, I love
That's how you
that.
remove yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm curious because I've spoken with so many different really high net worth 7, 8, 9 figure CEOs. And sometimes I go back and forth. So I'm curious your thoughts. Do you find that it's almost always a core defined high value problem? Or are you sometimes servicing just not necessarily a problem they're experiencing, but something that they're trying to accomplish? And how do you define that? Because I
Ooh,
do think that whether
that's
it's
a
a
good
solution or a
question.
problem, is that the same thing in your lingo?
Oh, I love this question. And it's a great nuanced question that shows that you really are catching what I'm putting down here.
Because
It's
growing your
both.
business to $1 million and I'm not getting there could seem like a problem, right?
All right. Yeah. So what you're actually bringing up is a broken leg problem. So here's the thing is that like when someone has a broken leg, you're not going to come up and be like, hey, let's get you running a marathon. You're like, no, you got to heal the broken leg first. You could talk to them about the marathon once you've addressed the broken leg, but they don't really care about it until you've done it. So the marketing messaging needs to enter the world of the ideal client. It needs to get into a place where what is their broken leg problem right now? Because otherwise, especially in this market right now, they're not going to hear anything
Yeah.
except for, so
Noise.
yes, you've got to get into where the pain point is. But when you can communicate this arc for this is the pain point you're experiencing right now. So right now, a lot of service-based firms are dealing with squeezed margins. They're dealing with the CEO getting pulled into the delivery. They're dealing with not being able to step back. They're dealing with longer and longer hours and working harder and not actually being able to get ahead, even though it's like they're working harder, but they're actually in a worse off place than maybe they were a year or two ago. Or maybe they're working twice as hard to be at the same place. And this is
Yeah.
what we're hearing, right?
Yeah.
Now, I can say you can be able to double your net profits in 12 months, and you can be able to have a company that can run and grow without you, like Jerry, who went from $1 million to being on track for $10 million by 2027 from 3 years ago, charging 6 and 7 figure deals from having $2,500 deals before. I could tell you that, but until you actually understand what is the pain point here and how can you immediately solve this pain point here, you don't care about that. You
The
don't
rest
think
doesn't
it
go.
won't
Yeah.
it won't
Yeah.
resonate. So you have to do both.
Yeah, it's interesting because in the world of authority marketing, which is obviously one of my companies, people suffer from those pain points of I'm invisible. My ad costs are increasing,
Yep.
my ability to get leads, my close rates are going down, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of noise, but ultimately they're invisible. And in the end, they want to just create this authority because their speed to lead, their speed to sale, their increased conversion, their lifetime value, all that stuff goes up when
Yeah.
you're the go-to in the industry.
Oh,
But you have to start with
totally.
you're not being seen. Like you don't have you don't have no credibility. So I can see where it
Right.
leads to that. Like you said, I don't know what you call it, like an arc, that basically where it leads to that, but you got to start with the problem.
Exactly. And it might even be a deeper problem than that, that like they might not even be aware that I need better visibility, that I need better authority. They might not even realize that. The bigger issue
Mhm.
for them might even one step lower than that is that like I'm showing up to these sales conversations and I'm offering $4,000 a month for something that would take 3 people for them to hire, 3 full-time people, and they're saying it's too expensive. That's
Yeah,
the problem is you have no authority right there, but that's their bleeding neck problem that they're aware of.
got it. So you want to drill it right down to that level, start there
Yeah.
with the plan. And the more clearly you define that path to create the solution is the better your advantage is for positioning with that client. So I love that. That's great.
Mhm.
So let me ask you this, because I know we don't have a lot of time, and you and I talked beforehand. We could go all day long on some of these topics because they're real problems people are dealing with right now. And I guess it still relates to that same idea is that ultimately they want a much more free lifestyle. with a growing business, but you have to start with the pain point, create sales that's profitable that you can scale. So where do people begin? Like, you're dealing with your target audience and clients. We have a mix of entrepreneurs and CEOs and at different levels. Is it always that level of awareness? Where do they begin? What would you recommend for them where they could start to assess where they're at and where their direction needs to
There's two different things. If it's really if you're cash rich and you're just running into time issues and you need to remove yourself from that, then that's one direction. And if you're cash poor and also time poor, usually it's a different direction. And I would say in this market, most people are in the latter category. So I'll address that one. If you're cash rich and time poor, then you're losing a lot of money. And like, we should have a conversation because we could show you how to turn that around really fast. But
Right.
if you are cash poor, one of the first things you want to do is look at how do we generate some more sales and opportunities so I can actually buy back my time. So that would be the first thing. You can hire an EA. One of the best things, but one of the most impactful things that you can do is actually be able to generate the cash flow that will allow you to be able to hire an operator in your company if you don't already have one.
Yeah.
Or the proper training to be able to get them to actually run the company. Now, the reason why this is that in a service-based firm, you're going to be pulled into every little part of the company if you don't have somebody in place that is building out the systems and processes to remove you. That's keeping the rest of the team going to be able to execute on your vision. Because you need to have someone who's going to be able to operationalize your growth plan, who's going to be able to operationalize, like, these are the outcomes that we're creating for clients. How are we going to be able to build systems around this? So this is going to be a massive bottleneck if you don't have this person in place to do that. And especially if you are in the high 6 to low 7 figures, if you don't have this person in place, what's going on is that your business is stuck right where you're at because you don't have that person in place. And if you're hedging up to 3 million, maybe even up to 5 million sometimes if you have big contracts, then you're stuck there if you don't have the leadership in place to be able to remove you from that. And you can take advantage of this we've helped clients be able to take advantage of this as early as $500,000 a year because we hire offshore and we find really good people from Eastern Europe and from South Africa that you can get really good people for about half the price of the US-based person. And when I'm saying that, I'm saying better people than you can even find in the States who will stay longer.
Yeah.
So you can do that sooner, but you need to generate some more profitable sales to do that. So the first step I'd go and make some more sales. I have a pipeline, a 500K pipeline map if anyone wants to download that. And there's 4 scripts that you can use to be able to reactivate at least $500,000 of pipeline. And it'll take a couple quarters to be able to see that, not a couple quarters, a couple months to see like at least $500,000 of pipeline growth of opportunities. But with it in there, you should be able to sell 1 or 2 new deals just in the next 30 days, just from what's in that pipeline. I actually have this in a paid program, but I put it together in this quick action guide that I'm happy to share with anyone who's listening. But that's probably one of the first steps because when you have the cash, then you can pay for the resources, the people, the external support and the advising, whatever you need to be able to get to that next level. And when you have the cash, you have the options.
And I think a lot of people, they start with buy back their time, then get an operator, then get systems and SOPs and things. And I love how you always bring it back to
Sales.
Start with selling, which requires clarity on your specific offer and your specific value and increased offer for profitability. Because then buying back your time, getting an operator and scaling that is all just happens, right? But you have to start with sales and clarity. So I love that.
I will just say too, this pipeline map that I'm sharing is like, you don't have to change your offers at all. You can start using it right away, exactly how your offers are. Now, if you want to be able to double, triple your price point, that's a different strategy, which it shares a link to learn more about that strategy. But right away, you can be able to generate more sales with what you're already doing there's 4 main areas. One of the biggest ones is reactivating past opportunities. You have 70%. Like if you have a close rate of 30%, 70% of those deals didn't close. So how do you be able to reactivate that? So we have a script that you can use to reactivate those deals. And I've personally used it to sell millions of dollars of services. My clients have too. It works.
I love it. No, that's great. And guys, if you're listening, I will put some links in the show notes. And I think honestly, I believe that's one of the best places to end our episode, because having not just go back to sales, but some kind of a strategy, some type of an approach. And a lot of people don't think through reactivation. They don't think through things that you're really good at teaching, dormant opportunities and hidden costs
Yeah.
of not monetizing that. So I think this could be really good. Before we take off though, is there any last piece of advice? And then where is the best way for people to connect with you? I can put things in the show notes. What would you say to that?
The best advice is to build your business to deliver real outcomes. When you do that, then it'll allow you to be able to elevate to the very top in your market. You can charge whatever you want in alignment with the value you can provide. You will attract the very best team members. George, you and I were just talking beforehand. I'm like, we just found the most amazing advisor coming on our team. I'm so excited. And he's so excited to be coming on our team because he wants to be part of what we're building. Build that kind of company. Build that kind of company that's based upon results. That will just magnetize people to your business. And that's my last advice. And where can you find me? If you go to handsoffceo.com/George, you can download that 500K pipeline map with the 4 scripts that you can use to reactivate opportunities. And I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. So it's Mandi Ellefson, MandiEllefson, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'll put those links in the show notes. And
Perfect.
this has been awesome. I think those nuances is where the true success lies. And so I'm glad that you pointed out so many of those, and there's so many more that we could cover. So thank you for being here with me. And listen, if you're listening to this episode, do me a favor, share this. I think there's a lot of people that need to hear the message because they're working on the wrong problems in the wrong areas of their business. And I think this could be life-changing, not just for the business growth, but for their life. And I always say it's never too late to start living the life you're meant to live, but you got to be working on the right things. And so this has been a great episode. Guys, listen, I will look forward to talking with you tomorrow, but do me a favor, hit me up on the Daily Mastermind. Let me know what you're working on. Let's celebrate some wins. Let me know what you're struggling with. And until tomorrow, we'll talk to you then. Have a great night.